As we approach 2026, I have a plan where I want to share important thoughts and considerations regarding psychology to our client base and those who have connected with us in the past. Hi, I'm Rick, clinical psychologist and founder of the Harvest Clinic. This month, the title of the talk that I have prepared is You're Not Disordered, You're Human. You see, in psychology, there's a book that you might have heard of called the DSM-5. It stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, and we're currently at the 5th edition. So in the DSM-5, there's about 450 different diagnoses in there. Names that you might have heard of like major depressive disorder or depression, generalized anxiety, bipolar, OCD, just to name a few. Compare that to the DSM-3, which had 265 diagnoses, the DSM-2, which had 182 diagnoses, and the DSM-1, which had only about 106. So the question begs that what will happen in the DSM-6 and 7? What will these numbers rise to? And importantly, are we discovering these different diagnoses or are we creating new labels? Some psychologists have taken a completely different approach to understanding mental health today. Rather than looking at diseases, diagnoses, and categorizing suffering, they've come to see alternative ways to consider what humans experience and what we go through in our lives. They have come up with this term called the botanizing of mental health that I wanted to share with you. So here's a cool fact. So before we could study the DNA and genetics of plant species, we used to give plants names based on their appearance. So if a plant had a red flower, it would be given a different name to the plant that had a blue flower or a white flower. Similarly, if plants had different sized leaves, different shapes, different heights, etc., they would all be given different names. However, interestingly, after the introduction of technology that could help us study plants at a genetic level, what we found out was that some of these plants that had been given different names actually had the same genetic markers. In other words, to say that they were of the same family, just presenting in different ways under different conditions. How does this relate to mental health? So today what we see is while there are so many different ways that we can experience suffering, so many different behaviors, emotions, and thoughts that we might experience, what we can see if we look deeper within psychology is that there are often common fundamental processes. And if we work at that level, I believe we more effectively work with people than if we keep playing the diagnosis categorizing game. Rather than looking to work out what disorder people have, at the Harvest Clinic, we really value understanding the root level function. And today, in this short video, I'm hoping to explain what that really looks like through a very simple analogy. So imagine as a child, you're given a very precious diamond, something that you're told has incredible value, that you need to take it with you wherever you go, and that at all costs you must protect it. Now imagine when you get your diamond. For some reason, it's really slippery. Now, I know that might be hard to comprehend because diamonds aren't slippery, but just bear with me for the sake of the metaphor. There's a point here. So you have that diamond and you're holding it, right? And it keeps slipping. Like imagine it's just slipping out of you. You're barely saving it each time, but you have to take it with you. Remember, that's one of the rules. As you get older and wiser, you might develop some ways to carry this diamond around to prevent losing it or having it ever fall and break. Just think for a second, what strategies might you come up with in order to protect this diamond from ever being lost or broken? People I've asked this question to have come up with all sorts of different creative strategies. Some people say they'll sticky tape it to their hand so it doesn't go anywhere. Some people will say that they might build a box, around it and hold it in the box. Some people say, well, they would just plan ahead for every day that they're going, especially if they know that they're going to go somewhere where it's more likely to get lost. They might plan ahead and organize their strategies according to what they can see might happen in the day. Whatever the case, there are probably thousands of ways that you could actually find to protect this diamond from being broken or lost. Imagine another child who also got a diamond. However, their diamond sticks to their hand no matter what happens. If they decide to throw it, if they decide to run, whatever they do, that diamond is not going anywhere. So the question I have is, would this person have to develop the same creative strategies that you had to develop? Would they have to learn to build a box or to tape it to their hand or to pre-plan about the day and what's going to happen? Would they have to learn to do all those things? And I would say no, they wouldn't, because they didn't have to protect it, because they didn't have to try and prevent losing it because it wasn't going anywhere. So in a similar way, many of us have had these precious diamonds that have become slippery. What are the diamonds? The diamonds are things that are critical to our psychological and emotional well-being and health. Things like love, acceptance, even safety, where these things were at risk of being harmed or actually may have been harmed. And in turn, we had to learn certain strategies to prevent that happening again, to protect us and to protect that diamond from being lost. The strategies we may have developed aren't literally building a box, but it may be things like pleasing others, self-sacrificing, worrying ahead of time for things that could go wrong, avoiding and hiding away to avoid being harmed, or being rejected or being criticized. The point is that the strategies are different. Just like the different diagnoses are technically different, just like the different plants look different. But the underlying process of having an experience which caused you to fear something being harmed and developing a pattern of behavior to protect that from ever happening again is fundamentally common amongst all those different examples. Whatever the strategy, the behaviors that we're stuck in are attempts to protect us from the emotions that we fear, which were driven by experiences of almost losing the diamond, such as being rejected, criticized, or hurt. And so at the Harvest Clinic, we see that while the strategies one person may adopt may be different to that of another person, where the DSM would come in with a different label because it looks different on the outside, we value working with individuals at a root level, helping them understand the history and the development of their patterns of behavior, rather than simply treating symptoms and providing short-term relief. So for now, rather than focusing on disease and disorder, I want to invite you to a completely different approach to looking after your mental well-being. Rather than focusing on treating surface-level symptoms and chasing happiness, to deepen your insight of understanding yourself and building up patterns of behavior that lead to lasting change in line with your values. What better way to launch into the new year than with something real and authentic like that? If something like this will appeal to you, we invite you to reach out to the team at the Harvest Clinic, and we will find the best suitable person to go on this journey with you. And thanks for taking the time to sit down with me, and I look forward to sharing more about what this journey looks like in the coming months.